In Dragon Quest, Popp and Hyunkel are like polar opposites in their character, actions, and presentation, but my opinion on the two seems paradoxical. The character that is presented as lame is cool to me, and the character that is presented as cool is lame. In this video, I'll go into flaws and Gary stews. Spoilers for Dragon Quest 2020. Popp is the second main character in Dragon Quest, and he's kind of a loser. He takes losses back to back to back. Sometimes he's doing something lame, other times something lame is happening to him. Let me go through all of his current losses. First, he's reluctant to train under Avon, a great master. Meanwhile, our protagonist is determined to learn under him. Dai's determination to become better, juxtaposed against Popp's laziness, already makes him come off as lame. Popp is also a pretty mediocre mage. He's been Avon's student longer than Dai, yet Dai quickly becomes more competent than him with magic. So he's already being outclassed in the only thing that he can do. Then, when he and Dai go to the dark forest and encounter Crocodile, he runs away and abandons Dai. He gets chased by a monster and has to be saved by Mom. When Crocodile attacks the castle, Popp initially bails out because he doesn't want to fight or die. He argues that he's not special like Dai. Because of this, he gets punched and verbally disrespected by Mom, who he's currently in love with. The two others actually fight half of the battle without him. Then, after the Gathering arc, Mom seems to be interested in Hyunkel, who is easily stronger and technically cooler than he is. That's rough, but it doesn't stop there. In the Destiny arc, Dai has lost his memories, and his dad is after him. So Popp pretends he's running away in order to fight Baron's soldiers. But because the others think he's actually being a coward, he gets slapped and verbally disrespected by the princess. While we later learn that he's faking, this didn't stop me from despising him at the moment. Then while fighting Baron, he dies. Towards the end of the arc, he gets tricked by a fake mom confessing to him and has to be saved. Unless you count being saved by Hyunkel, he doesn't really take any more L's until the Holy Ordeal arc. When Leona is chosen as the 5th student of Avon, we learn that all of the students have the ability to make their insignia glow. This will be necessary for a spell that the 5 of them will try to cast. All of the other 4 members are able to make theirs glow with no problem, but Popp is unable to. While I don't think Mom is that special, Leona is a princess, Hyunkel is one of the best warriors in the story, and Dai is a hero and a dragon knight. He understandably feels unworthy of being Avon's student. This man trains and researches to figure out how to do it, but he just can't. Then, in the middle of all this, his crush comes to talk to him about her crush, which causes him to understandably snap at her. And this takes us to episode 67, which inspired me to write this. When the time to cast a glimmer comes, Popp is the only one unable to make his insignia glow. He has a complete breakdown in the middle of the battle. The others are trying to encourage him, but he's asking for a tactical retreat, even though this is the only chance they'll get. He even tells them to give the insignia to someone else because he's not special. He eventually runs away from the spell to fight the enemies, and is only stopped by an ally taking a projectile attack for him. He's constantly getting his ass kicked by the plot or shooting himself in the foot with his decisions. From this summary alone, he sounds like such a detestable character, but he is by far my favorite in Dragon Quest. And that's because no matter how many times he's kicked down, he keeps finding a way to get back up. My feelings towards the author's decisions are really conflicted, because I was pissed when Popp pretended to be a coward and got disrespected for it, and when he was being insecure. I was thinking, I already like this character, why do you have to keep making him go through all these low moments? I personally think simply having him be a coward against Crocodile and overcoming it would have been good enough to make me like a flawed and struggling character. But the author said, nah, I'm gonna make this guy suffer. He's gonna have a crush on a girl who has a crush on a much cooler character and doesn't even notice his feelings. He's gonna have an understandable but immense amount of insecurity because he's a regular guy surrounded by special people. He's gonna get disrespected and humiliated left and right. He's gonna have a mental breakdown in the climax of a fight, but you're still gonna like him. And I do. He grows from a mediocre mage into a very competent one. While he still pales in comparison to Dai, he does learn useful spells like Zoom, 5 Fingers Flares, and Medroa. While he runs away from Crocodile twice, he comes back to help in both fights, although he needs outside influence. When he pretends to be a coward, he is able to kill one of Baron's elite soldiers mostly on his own. After having a complete breakdown and being saved by Meryl, he's able to confess to Mom and has the most satisfying scene in this anime, where he's begging for someone to heal her and he just powers up and starts healing her himself, leveling up from a mage to a sage. While he doesn't recover from all of the L's he takes, he recovers from the biggest ones. Popp is framed as the lame, goofy guy of the group, but watching him endure and overcome all of the struggles and suffering he goes through makes him the coolest character in the story. Then we have Hyunkel, a character the plot bends over backwards to make seem cool, despite having a blank piece of paper for a personality. He was Avon's first student, but was manipulated and lied to by one of the villains, so he became a villain. He was powerful enough to defeat Dai and Popp alone until Dai used his Dragonite powers. Then, he redeems himself by sacrificing his life to throw the main trio to safety while he burns in the lava. Then, he comes back to save Mom and Popp as a reformed character during the Clash arc. Out of all of the main characters, Hyunkel is probably only second to Dai in strength. In the Destiny arc, when Popp goes to fight the 3 soldiers by himself, Hyunkel comes to save him and defeats the other 2 alone. In the Holy Sword arc, when the others are in trouble dealing with enemy goons, he shows up at the right time to save them. When everyone's paralyzed by Mist Fern, he's the only one who could temporarily break through. Episode 65 is the peak of this. He and Crocodile are captured and Mist Fern gives him the option to drink something that will make him evil and serve him again. He drinks it and turns evil. His aura of darkness is drowning out his aura of light, but after being ordered to kill his ally, he breaks free and supposedly dies because he couldn't handle the conflicting auras. But then he gets back up just as Mist Fern is about to kill Crocodile, now even stronger than before. Then he starts kicking ass before his own allies step in. I probably missed some other cool moments, but the point is, I hate this character. Part of that goes back to my comparison of L and Nier and what makes a good character. He has no charisma and comes off as a Gary Stu. He's always coming in to save the day at the last moment. He's consistently one of the strongest fighters and is naturally talented. All of the characters in his vicinity make sure to remind you of how cool he is every time he appears. He's got good and evil inside of him, and it makes him powerful. The author tried so hard to make a cool character, but the only time he was ever really flawed was in his first arc. After he becomes a good guy, he's this perfect and powerful character who basically never struggles with making decisions and is only outclassed by the most overpowered characters in the story. A small example that irritates me is after the Mist Fern battle, he knew to sympathize with Popp in order to fire him up, and then he's praised by Mom for this. This kind of perfection makes me cringe. His lack of personality and flaws actually make all of these cool things backfire. The author is trying too hard to make me like a character that I don't care for, and every attempt deepens my disdain for him. It's so ironic. Popp's base personality is only slightly better than Hyunkel's, but the difference in the amount of flaws and struggles they go through creates such a large gap in my enjoyment of the two. Popp keeps messing up, but not only are his mess-ups understandable sometimes, he makes up for them. The more he struggles and takes losses, the more I want to see him win. On the other hand, Hyunkel is a nearly flawless character that the author tries to force me to like, but this only has the opposite effect. Even Dai and Mom struggle. After losing to the Demon King, Dai has a moment where he doesn't want to fight anymore. When Mom's gun breaks, she has to find a new vocation and realizes that Leona can cast better healing spells than her, which kinda makes her useless. In conclusion, a character that struggles and overcomes is much more appealing than one that never struggles. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out my manga for free online. If you enjoy my content, please consider donating to my Patreon. All important links will be in the description.